I'm excited to now introduce our keynote speaker, Miss Diana Bandoh. She is such an incredible asset to not only the legal community, but the amazing creativity that she has in the Dallas community is something that others have been aspiring to for years. So we are excited to have her as the keynote speaker. Miss Bandoh moved to McKinney in 2001. She graduated cum laude from the University of Texas at Dallas with a degree in political science and Hispanic area studies in 2011. And then she attended the Southern Methodist University Dedman School of Law. Diana graduated from law school in 2014 and went to work at Goldman Sachs in 2015 as a licensed attorney. At Goldman Sachs, she used her Spanish speaking and reading abilities to help streamline contract negotiations with clients in Latin America. Nonetheless, she still had a burning desire to express her creativity. Diana started her business through Etsy last June, began designing her own jewelry pieces in July, and launched her website in November of 2018. Now a full-fledged example of entrepreneurship, Diana continues to grow her brand and expand her business ventures. Diana, we are so excited to have you here, and take it away.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me. And I think I mentioned before that I was a DAYL member in law school, and one of my first really fun happy hours as a 1L was a DAYL happy hour. So I'm really excited to be here today as a speaker because I think a lot of the mentorship and meaningful relationships I got in law school and during my first couple of years as a lawyer were as a result of DAYL involvement. So with that said, my name's Diana. I started Diana Bandoh Jewelry in 2018. I started dreaming about having a jewelry line when I was waiting for bar results. I don't know if anyone here who's watching took the bar in 2014, but it was a year where nationwide pass rates were like the lowest they've been in a decade. And if you took the bar in Texas, you know that Texas results come out later than everyone else's. So day 3, walked in my car. I was convinced I'd failed the bar. And so I spent the July to November waiting period thinking about what else I was going to do with my life because I knew I'd failed the bar and I was not under any circumstances going to retake it because it was awful. And the one thing that I kept saying is like, I'd love to be the Kendra Scott of Aruba. I'd love to have a jewelry line. And then was like, that's crazy. I get back to applying for jobs because I didn't graduate with a job. And then, fast forward 4 years later, I'm in Bali and a whole series of events happened. I fell in love with Indonesian pearls, that Bali's in Indonesia. And I just happened to be there right around Mother's Day. And so I decided to get my Mother's Day jewelry in Bali and texted some friends and said, hey, do you want pearls from Bali for your mom for Mother's Day? And everyone was like, obviously, why wouldn't I want pearls from Bali for Mother's Day? So that's really how it got started. And one thing led to another. And then a little over a year later, things were going well enough that I thought it made sense to leave my job at Goldman. So I did. And then a pandemic hit. So kind of with all of that, when I thought about what I wanted to say today, the idea of branding, which I don't think I'm a brand expert, but the idea of branding came up because I think that we're at a time, particularly in light of everything that's happened this year, both with the coronavirus pandemic and with everything that's happened with response to social justice, that I think it's really critical for brands to be super thoughtful about who they are, what they are. And I probably won't have enough time to get into both, but I wanted to touch both on branding your business and personal branding because both matter. Both matter. So at a high level, why do you want a brand? And I brought one of my books, and I'm not going to tell you the title of because it's a secret. But one of the books I really like that talks about branding. And so it says, a well-defined, memorable brand is absolutely essential for any successful product. Brands serve 4 main functions. They help customers remember the product. They convey a complex message quickly. They help customers distinguish between the product and similar products, and they create a positive appeal to entice someone to buy the product. So this book that I'm reading from is a little older, but at the time it was written, it said, 30 years ago, there were only 16 brands of bottled water, and now there are more than 300 brands. So if you think about yourself like a bottle of water on a shelf, like what would make someone reach for you over the other bottle of water? And that is the purpose of a brand. So I think one of the things when you're starting your business, I think people don't think about, and sometimes it's hard to, is ideally, in a perfect world, if everything goes right, who is the person that you want to react favorably to you? Who is the ideal customer? Not everyone's your customer. Not everyone is going to want to hire you as a lawyer. Not everyone's going to want to buy whatever it is you're selling or use whatever service you have. But the people who see the value in your unique product or service and are willing to pay the price you want to charge for that product or service are the ideal customer. And that's going to be certain specific people. Sometimes they will be your ideal customer because of political reasons. They want to get the bottle of water from the liberal company, or they want the bottle of water from the conservative company. Sometimes they'll be your customer for geographical reasons. They want the water that is specifically from this one part of Kansas City. Anything from that part of Kansas City, they're going to buy. They'll be your customer because of color schemes, like whatever. But there's always going to be a very specific person or group, but it's specific, who will be the ideal customer. The ideal customer is somebody who will be a raving fan, an evangelist, will tell all their friends, will leave reviews, will buy your product or service and give it as gifts. And so, you have to think about, what does that person value? What do they believe? How are you a solution to what they perceive to be their problems? And then reverse engineer your brand based on that. So when I started Diana Bandoh Jewelry, I was, in my 30s, just still am, and working a demanding job, and single, still am, and wasn't thrilled about it. And so one of the things that I wanted was jewelry that I could wear to work, on a date, like one piece that I could wear lots of different ways, because I felt like sometimes I'd have, a long day at work, and then I'd have a date, or like a, to church or something with your family or whatever. So to me, versatility was really important because of the life stage I was in, and because there's so many different spaces. Some are more conservative. Sometimes there's girls' night. There's, so to me, the value that I offered was, there's this one piece and maybe it's $300, but you can wear it 5 or 6 different ways. And instead of needing 6 different necklaces for, these 6 different settings, you can wear this one necklace a couple of different ways. And so the piece I'm specifically referring to right now is this necklace that I have on. There's a couple different ways to wear it. But it was my first top seller, the first thing to go on back order, the first thing to sell out twice was this necklace because of the versatility piece. But it's a $300 necklace, and some people think that is way too much money to spend on something you wear on your neck. And so for those people, it really doesn't matter how much money I spend on marketing. It doesn't matter how much I talk about the materials. It doesn't. They don't care. They're not my customer. And in the early days, I was like, I just want everybody to have one of these necklaces. Whereas now I'm like, no. Like, you need to focus on the person that will be the enthusiastic, evangelical, raving fan of whatever it is that you offer, and really speak directly to them, speak to what they care about. So for my customer, it's a woman who believes that her appearance is worth investing in, and therefore prefers quality pieces over things that maybe are less expensive but will need to be replaced or will break, or lower quality. And that excludes a lot of people. It actually excludes a really lucrative segment of the jewelry purchasing market. But I'm okay with that. so, um, sorry, and I'm going to take a little break. So I'm actually right now in a co-working space called The Slate. So this is in the screen behind me. This is actually like there's a wall that says The Slate. It's a co-working space in the design district. The owners are sisters, and one of them is a former Haynes-Boone attorney named Jody Slater. So if you are a small business owner who needs a co-working space and you like to support women-owned businesses, you should get a space at the Slate because there's offices and there's a Zoom room and there's a podcasting room. So, and even with the Slate, so, there's multiple co-working spaces in Dallas, but somebody who cares about supporting women-owned businesses is more inclined to, use the Slate than, someone who doesn't really care if businesses are women-owned or not, or minority-owned or not, or whatever. So, Justin, Kelly, am I allowed to ask or give people a chance to ask questions, or do I just need to keep going?
It's totally up to you, Diana. We have the function to show into the Q&A should anybody have something coming up in their mind. But no, you're doing great if you want to continue. I would love to know kind of what jump-started you to make this change. If some people are starting to, launch their business, or maybe are on the fence to doing that, kind of what pushed you into this unknown world that you're in.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So I have always loved jewelry, like ever since I was like a little kid. And then before college, I worked retail, which I think everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people have like those jobs at the mall or whatever. And I was always like, if there were tangled necklaces, I'd be like, oh, I'll tangle them. Or if, there was like a jewelry display, I was like, I'll do it. Or if customers came in and they're like, I want a t-shirt, I'm like, sure, but let me show you these earrings. They're so cute. I love them. And then also you should get this and this and this. And then whenever I go shopping with, there's one friend in particular in college who I used to let her go shopping with. And she was like, when I told her about the jewelry line, she's like, that makes sense, because when we go shopping, you'd be like, I really like this sweater, but is there a necklace that goes with it? And so it came from a really organic place of just it being something I love. And then I like that the practice of gifting jewelry is usually tied to a tradition that is important. So either birthdays, Mother's Day, wedding, milestones. And so I liked just, the kind of the fact that if you're buying jewelry for someone, it's usually someone who means a lot to you. And so in addition to just the fashion and, loving like pretty sparkly things, I also liked having a chance to be a part of memory making. At one of my first pop-ups, a guy bought this necklace and the matching earrings, and I was like, this is, more money than I was expecting him to spend. So I was like, what are you buying this for? And he said, he got super excited and was like, I'm getting married in 3 weeks, and this is going to be my gift to my wife after the wedding, like on our first night together. Which I thought was, I was like, I designed this at my coffee table. And, knowing that I would be like the first gift that he'd give to his wife, as a legally married couple, and that he was, for 3 weeks would be looking forward to giving this thing that I designed to her. Like, that's really special. And so, it's a host of things, but it started from a really organic place of like, I just love this so much. It's very different to love something and to then go to a place where you're trying to profitably sell it. Like, running a business is not what I love. Jewelry itself is what I love. And I didn't appreciate the difference when I got started, but I'm learning as I go. So yeah, that was the beginning. It was just loving it so much. And that's why I thought, I want to have my own jewelry line.
Yeah, that's incredible. And especially the time that we're in during these insane, day-to-day lives that we live. It's so refreshing to see, your passion should lead you. And I think you're such a great example of that. And you made a point, and I thought this was a funny point, that running a business and also having jewelry are two different things.
Yeah.
So kind of expand on that and kind of some of the trials, tribulations,
So I think there's a lot of people who, we live in a culture where entrepreneurship is kind of sexy, and you see these like people on Instagram and like a private jet, and they're like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, and it just looks like, oh, this is so, I want to do this, I want to be an entrepreneur, this is cool. And then you actually do it, and you're like, wait a second, they tell me about this. So, just because you're a smart person, just because you're disciplined, just because you're whatever, doesn't necessarily mean you know what you're doing. And I, jumped into, selling the jewelry, but it's like, okay, like once you sell more than so many things, now you need to start thinking about tax. Now you need to think about advertising, supply chain, logistics, marketing, storage, inventory. There's so many things that I'm like, I didn't learn about inventory management in law school. I didn't learn about logistics. And then, I get materials from all over the world, but a lot of raw materials come from China. There's a trade war. So, I would be trying to price something, and my suppliers would say, oh, I can tell you how much it costs to get these pearls from, the factory to, the United States, but I don't know how much it will cost to get it out of customs because we're in the middle of a trade war. So if I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to charge for something once it's finished and made, and I'm trying to get the pricing so I can now I need to factor in the tariffs, the trade. It's like that's just like one little minuscule piece of it, but there's so much you need to learn. At this point, I've been using I pay for coaching. So I have a business coach I've been using for about a year. I attend conferences now virtually. I read a lot of books because there's just a really steep learning curve, and you kind of don't know what you don't know unless you have a mentor who's gone before you, or you have a lot of experience in the industry in which you're starting your business. And it's fine. Like if you learn to walk and talk, you can learn to run a business, but there are things that you wouldn't know. And I didn't have a business degree. I didn't take accounting classes. So, there's just a lot. And oh my gosh. And then just this summer, just another point to the whole like running a business versus actually loving the thing. I had my very first chargeback this summer, which somebody ordered something that was 14 karat gold, express shipping. I shipped it. I had emailed some questions that they didn't respond to, then I started to get nervous. So I was like, well, they said express, so I ship it, I pay for the expedited shipping. And then maybe a month later, I get an email saying a customer has opened up a thing saying that there was a fraudulent charge. So I respond, provide the tracking, the emails, whatever. But at the end of the day, the bank's always going to settle on the side of the cardholder. So in the midst of a pandemic where sales are down anyway, somebody placed a fraudulent order for my website. And so now I'm out, literally the money was just taken out of my account. And I also don't have the product.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that you this event that we're putting on today would have been helpful when you're starting out getting your marketing, your taxes. There's so many things that people don't know and realize. And like you said, this culture we live in, Shark Tank is the all-time goal for people. And you don't understand what kind of work that goes into it. And speaking of work, we have a question from one of our attendees, and I kind of want to make it a little bit more broad. Having a full-time job and trying to start a side business is a lot. So how do you manage that workload when you're trying to launch your own brand, but you still have to have a 8-hour job a day?
Oh, only 8?
Well,
or part-time. I'm like 40 hours a week. That's part-time, right? So I'll give you 2 answers. I'll give you I think the correct answer is you have to be really efficient with your time and prioritize, learn to say no, get your sleep and exercise. So but here's what I did. I slept about 4 hours a night and just didn't really hang out with anybody and binged business coaching content, because at first I didn't have a ton of money for paid coaching. So I was just like podcasts, books, YouTube. And so what my schedule looked like is I would get up in the morning around 7, go to work around 8:39, work until about 8, come home, take a break till like 9-ish, hour to eat, whatever, and then work on the business until 3 a.m. And then I went to bed.
The things that people don't see behind the scenes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So on Instagram, it's like pictures of me getting a blowout or like, super cute. The stories from, other entrepreneurs who've done it. I mean, it's a lot of like, yeah, I work till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then, I drink a lot of coffee. It definitely isn't good for your health if you're, but like, there's a season for everything. I mean, this year I've been working out a lot. I'm still not getting enough sleep, but one thing at a time, eating better. So, I've had a really unhealthy season, and now I'm in a healthier season. But yeah, I mean, it's not, and one thing that happened a lot as I was starting is people would like go to the website, they'd look at the prices, and they'd be like, oh, wow, you're rich. But what they didn't see, so one of the things that most small businesses struggle with at the beginning is cash flow, especially if you aren't starting with a huge nest egg. And for me, I was self-financed, and I would use proceeds from sales to finance continued operations. So, if I would have 30 of a necklace made, and I have to pay for the materials, the labor, whatever, and then the photography, and then the models. And so it's like before I even like have a chance to make it available for sale, I'm already maybe $2,000 out of pocket. And so, you have to sell X to break even. Well, if the money hasn't come in and you're self-financed, what a lot of entrepreneurs do is you use the money from your salary. So now, like, like there's less money, there's less disposable income. So where I'm going with this is there was a lot of canned tuna for dinner in the first year. So which is, I was doing what I loved, and living my dream, and it was worth it. It was fun, but it's not, behind the curtain is not cute. You have to juggle.
And I'm sure there's so many small business owners on here that know that firsthand, that the finished product is after years and years of work. In the same vein of trying to figure out how to manage everything, we have a question that asks, when did you learn to outsource things? Like, did you hire a business consultant, a personal assistant, a helping hand? When did you know, first off, do you do those things? And when did you know it was time to start outsourcing?
So if you are a first-time small business owner or someone who's new, like I was, you will have a very difficult time honestly answering the question, like, which activities are income generating and which ones are not. And my answer is, to your question, figure out which activities are income generating, which ones are not. Anything that doesn't actually generate income, I would outsource. And the things that actually do, focus your time on that. And, if there are, sometimes your budget drives, what you can do. I have an assistant now. I literally don't know what I would do without her. Like, oh my God. But I didn't have an assistant in the beginning. It was just me. And because there wasn't the money to pay someone to like get my dry cleaning, run to FedEx, but now there is. So I'm doing it because while she's going to FedEx, I can work on marketing. I can work on following up with VIP customers. I can work on things that actually bring money in instead of just stuff that has to get done. So, and people really get nervous about that first employee. I still haven't hired the first employee. And I think the biggest fear is, what if I don't have enough money to pay them? And so, I think you have to judge your hiring based on what you can afford. But I do think that having the obligation to pay them will make you hustle harder to generate the money to pay them. And a lot of times, people don't realize this, but like sometimes like that first employee, like basically all the money that's coming in goes to pay their salary. But because they're doing all the other things, like you can grow faster. I think a lot of people think, oh, I want to start a business because I'm going to make so much money. And I'm like, I would not start any business that you aren't willing to eat canned tuna for dinner for an extended period of time. And unless you're starting with a huge nest egg, a business will, at least in the first year, primarily be an expense, not a source of revenue. So if you're just doing it for the money, I mean, money is fabulous, and I love expensive things, like more than most people. I really love, like, Dom Perignon champagne. I love fine leather goods, luxury travel. I love it, but it's not going to get you out of bed on 4 hours of sleep for a year and make you okay with, there's weddings that I couldn't afford to go to. But then I listen to stories from other entrepreneurs who have multi-million-dollar companies, and they say the same thing.
You must be doing something right.
Yeah. Founder Stitch Fix, in one of her interviews, specifically mentioned weddings that she can, and I think she became the youngest female founder to have a company that had an IPO. So huge deal, but like the front end was not cute. So I know this is supposed to be about branding, but I'm such a random person. I'm fine with talking about whatever. So there's other things that.
Yeah, we have one question to round out our time here as your keynote, and I think it's a great one to end on. I'm sure something that you've been asked a lot. What are some of your favorite business coaching resources, podcasts, books, things that you utilized in those, infancy stages that really helped you become the success you are?
Yeah, so there's so many. I love Grant Cardone and his books. He's got good books on sales, on mindset, on success, on, being hard on yourself. I love Les Brown, who's a really great motivational speaker. There's the How I Built This podcast, which is so good. And it has all the bigs are interviewed on there. The Wall Street Journal has Secrets of Wealthy Women. That's a really good podcast. Amy Porterfield has a good podcast on online. It's called The Online Marketing Made Easy. Jenna Kutcher has the Goal Digger podcast, GOAL Digger. And I can, if you want, make a list and have it.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. We're going to pass around PDF materials of all of the attendees and presenters today. So if you want to send that over, I can make sure it gets to our attendees that I'm sure could use it. But it's 12:30, so if you have any final remarks, and then we'll break for lunch.
Yeah, I guess the final thing I will say is, a brand should ultimately be about what makes you different in a way that's memorable. And so, focus on that. Like, what's your heart? Why are you doing this? What would make someone, be excited about doing business with you over someone else, and focus on that when you're coming up with what your brand is. So.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you to the Slate for this lovely place that you were able to present in. They are a fantastic group. And again, thank you so much for your time. It is such an honor to see someone, achieve their dreams, like what these other attendees are trying to do, make a business. So we appreciate your time. Thank you.
No, thank you. It was so fun.